Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel on human design. I am Pragya and I like to think of myself as an agent of consciousness that brings awareness to people's lives through logical understanding of energy mechanics. In today's video, we're actually going to be looking at what it means to live a nine-centered, purpose-driven life and how the program, the consciousness program, actually enables us to be able to live a nine-centered life or not. And this is actually quite a detailed and nuanced topic, so I'm going to try my best to pull loads of different areas of study in human design together in a cohesive, simple, easy to understand way. So let's get started. So the first thing to understand is that life, existence, is a simulation, a projection, a movie. There is a dance between two different kinds of consciousness: design consciousness and personality consciousness, body and mind. By the way, I'm using the word mind here for personality, but actually personality isn't the same thing as the mind. It is something that functions through the mind. And that is a nuance that is important to understand, but I also don't have any other word that I can use instead of mind that actually puts forth the point that I'm trying to make. So just remember that. So we're in a design and personality consciousness dance. And this dance, this skit, this movie is orchestrated through a consciousness program. Now, the planets are actually big players in this consciousness program, and we receive this program through the neutrinos that we receive every single second of every single day. Now, if you want to understand the physics behind all of this, I actually did make a video on the physics of human design, so you can either check that here or I'll put it down below. In really simple words, what I'm trying to say is that you and I are a quantum of two different kinds of consciousness: design consciousness, body consciousness, and mental consciousness, personality consciousness. And we are part of a larger consciousness field that has a direction that it's headed in. And a lot of people, in fact, Ra himself in many places has said that the direction of this consciousness program, this consciousness movie that you and I are a part of, is that of development of cognition, or in really simple words, the development of highly intelligent bodies. However, in my opinion, the ultimate direction of this consciousness program is the expression of a conscious personality, which isn't possible without the development of a highly intelligent and cognition embedded body. So essentially, this consciousness program, you and I, all of this exists because consciousness is trying to develop bodies that are so intelligent that they are capable of housing a personality that is conscious, that can then become in charge of those bodies. And this can be really hard to grasp, but you and I are essentially cells in a gland of a larger body. Compare yourself to a cell that is in your body. The cell that is in your body isn't necessarily aware that it's part of a larger program, but actually it is. And just like that, we are also part of something bigger, and we are also playing our specific role in that larger existence. Think of all existence as a life itself. and yourself as a tiny functional part of that larger life. And the point of that larger life is to have a conscious personality that can be in charge of its body. Think of all existence as an unborn child that is preparing to be conscious. And think of yourself as a little cell that is enabling this entire existence to become conscious. When we talk about a nine-centered being, specifically us, Homo sapiens in transitus, i.e. nine-centered beings that are not raves, the purpose of our life, the function of our life, the direction of our life is towards developing self-reflective consciousness, is towards expressing our unique personality as we are empowered by a unique design consciousness, our unique bodies. Every single thing or form of consciousness that exists on this planet or that exists in all of totality itself actually has a purpose, actually has its own unique way of serving this larger consciousness program. Five-centered beings that are our ancestors had the purpose of being in deep relationship to the consciousness program. The seven-centered beings were here to develop and survive through mental strategies. You and I are here to express a unique self-reflective consciousness as a result of having unique bodies. The purpose of raves that are going to start coming into the world after 2027, if we are to believe the voice, the purpose of raves is to express receptive group consciousness, penta consciousness, right? And this is not to say that us uranian beings, us nine-centered beings, us Homo sapiens in transitus do not express group consciousness. However, the way that we organize ourselves in groups is unconscious. We form unconscious pentas, which means that the consciousness that comes through our groupings is very different from the consciousness that is going to be able to display itself through the raves. And it is not just us human beings that are here to have our own specific role and function and contribution to make. It is everything. Mammals have a very specific function to play. Plants have a very specific function to play. Insects have a very specific function to play. And actually, all forms of consciousness that exist to help each other develop and move towards this singular direction of the development of cognition that can eventually lead to existence having a conscious personality. By the way, if all of this is a little bit too complicated or too much to take in one go or too much to understand in one go, I am working on a cosmology course that is going to talk about every single one of these concepts in detail. So watch out for when that comes out if you're interested. But going back to the point that I was trying to make is that us nine-centered beings that are not raves have a purpose, and our purpose is to express our uniqueness in the world. And we express our purpose through developing into our incarnation cross. Our incarnation cross is something that we are imprinted with at birth. For example, I am a hermit opportunist who was born on the right angle cross of penetration 1. I'm here to contribute to the larger consciousness field by being able to express my personality sun with the help of all the other activations that I have in my design. Specifically, the design sun earth and the personality earth. I'm designed to contribute to the larger consciousness program by penetrating to the core of the situation when I'm invited to look at things through my logical mind and get to the bottom of what's needed here and what's the solution to the problem at hand. And the potential unique solution that my personality consciousness can bring forth is a result of a highly empowered spiritual body that enjoys freedom, that enjoys starting new experiences and learning from them. My life's process involves me learning to develop into someone that can shock others intuitively through mental concepts, because I have an empowered body that is grounded in its spirituality and its ability to have new experiences. Just like this, every single one of us is born to go through a developmental process through which we can express our incarnation cross, through which we can express our unique personality consciousness that is empowered by our unique design, our unique bodies. So our purpose is something that we are imprinted with, born into, but it isn't something that we get to express fully as soon as we come into the world. It is something that we learn to grow into. It is something that we learn to develop into. And this is where the consciousness program actually comes into the picture. This consciousness program is also genetically imprinted into us at birth, but it comes alive as we move through our life's process. Every year, as the planets move around the Rave mandala, we find that they are in different positions in the sky when we reach our birth date. A calculation of where the planets are every single year on your birth date is what we call a solar return chart. Solar returns are important cycles in our life that help us ground ourselves in ourselves or not. What I mean by this is that whenever we look at a solar return chart in connection with the chart that we have been imprinted with at birth, we get an opportunity to see what we can expect the program to bring into our life through people, through new directions and environments, through transformation. Think of your life as you being in school perpetually, as soon as you are born till the time that you die. Because the school of life, the school of consciousness, is constantly giving us an opportunity to understand ourselves, to grow through other people, to grow through other environments, to grow through transformations, developmental processes, and through those processes realize who is it that we are and learn what we need to learn in order for us to fulfill our ultimate purpose, in order for us to live out our incarnation cross. Ra actually uses this metaphor that I really enjoy of being served in a buffet. What the solar return brings, or for that matter, what the other cycles also bring into our lives, give us an opportunity to experience different kinds of consciousness through other people, through other environments, and through other processes. However, when we look specifically at what is being served at the buffet table in our solar return charts, what we are being handed is an opportunity to interact with what is on the table as ourselves through strategy and authority, and not to pig out on everything that is served up on the table, because ultimately, instead of that helping us into learning about our purpose, into growing into our purpose, it's actually going to make us sick, because we didn't use our discretion, because we didn't use our inner authority, because we didn't act as ourselves in connection with life. So a solar return is actually helping you develop your character as the being that you were designed to be, as the consciousness that you were designed to be. So if we look at my solar return chart for the year 2024, what we will see is that we have 0 dominance channels. A channel that dominates would be a channel in which I have no hanging gates or dormant gates. An example of a dominance channel would be if the transit field defined the channel 6447, of which I neither have gate 64 nor gate 47 in my original imprint. This is a channel that I have no stakes in this life, in a sense. And activations like this are actually here for educational purposes. If I don't have any personal stakes in that energy in the world, that I can really be an impartial observer of it and learn really truly what that channel in those lines is about. What we can see here also is that I have 2 electromagnetic channels and 3 compromises in the solar return for this year. Electromagnetic connections would simply just mean that I have one side of the entire channel, that I have an opportunity to learn about the hanging gate that I have. When it comes to compromises, essentially a compromise channel would mean that the program is bringing me a full definition and I already have a stake in it by having a hanging or dormant gate. Again, this is an opportunity that is brought by the program for me to learn about myself and to learn about the characteristics that I have already within myself in connection to the energy that is being brought to me. When it is the inner planets like Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars that are bringing the activation, it means that the program will most likely bring in people that have those activations into our life, and we can decide through strategy and authority if we want to learn about that aspect of ourselves. If it is the nodes that are bringing the activation, then that is an opportunity for us to interact with a new direction in order to learn more about ourselves. If it is the outer planets that are bringing the definition, then it is actually going to be more developmental processes that we go through in order to learn about ourselves. So when we look at my solar return for 2024, we can see that the program isn't really bringing me any dominance channels, meaning that I'm not really this year given an opportunity to learn about something that I don't have any stakes in. However, what the program is bringing to me is Saturn activating the second gate, that is the harmonic to my gate 14, and Neptune activating gate 36, that is the harmonic to my gate 35. Saturn and Neptune are both outer planets, and therefore both of these activations can potentially bring me transformation in my direction and emotional experience. And it is important to remember that just because the program will give me an opportunity to go through a developmental or transformational process in my emotional growth as well as my creative direction doesn't mean that it's correct for me to go down that path. Only strategy and authority can help me decide and help me navigate the Maya correctly as myself. Other activations that I have are through Venus, that is activating gate 25, that is the harmonic to my personality sun of gate 51. Mars is activating gate 10, that is the harmonic to my gate 57. And Mercury is activating gate 42, which is the harmonic to my design Earth, gate 53. And all of these 3 planets that is bringing forward a compromise through the program into my life our inner planets, which means that most likely the program is going to bring into my life people that have gate 25, that have gate 10, that have gate 42, and that I have the potential opportunity to learn about myself and compromise through other people if it is correct for me to do so through my strategy and authority. Essentially, this year, the program is giving me an opportunity to experience my cross in a compromised manner through some people that it brings into my life. Just like this, every single year, every single one of us will have a solar return that will give us an opportunity to explore the world, to explore ourselves in relationship, to learn from relationship, to explore compromises, to explore attraction, to learn about a completely different energy in the world. And all of this in order to really develop our character as ourselves in relationship to the world. A solar return is an opportunity for us to get a taste of what else is out there in the world and how to interact with it as ourselves. Ra actually places a large emphasis on understanding our solar return a lot more than even understanding some of the bigger life cycles we go through, because the bigger life cycles like your Saturn return or your Uranus opposition or your Chiron return, all of these cycles are actually cycles that are more oriented towards the development of your purpose rather than the development of your character. However, what is really clear is that if we don't develop our character as ourselves and learn to act as ourselves in the world, we actually are not capable of fulfilling our purpose. Because it is only as ourselves that we can develop into our purpose, that we can make our contribution. And if we don't learn about ourselves and learn to act and operate and navigate in the world as ourselves, our purpose is just a far-fetched concept. It is not something that can become a mechanical reality. So it is your solar return that gives you a real opportunity to explore who you are and to interact with what is around you in an authentic way with integrity so that you can have the development that you need in your life in order to grow. The first 30 years of your life, according to Ra, is about answering the question, who is in charge? And it speaks to the process we've been talking about so far, because the first 30 years of the life of a Uranian being, of a Homo sapien in transitus, is about understanding who is my authority, who makes decisions for me, who is in charge. And this is a time in which Ra specifically emphasizes the importance of eating correctly for your body, because it is only when we're able to eat correctly for our body and nourish our brain systems and empower our cognition that we have the opportunity for our cognition to back our decision-making process as ourselves. A nine-centered being that actually begins their process as themselves goes through this process of the first 7 years or the first 14 years actually having their parents as their authority, hopefully aware parents that can give their child outer authority in accordance with what really works for the child. All the way up to the teenage years of a child, the child isn't really their own authority. And post-Saturn opposition, which is the midpoint for a Saturn cycle, a Uranian being is meant to start to have their own experiences and learn about who it is that is the true authority in their life. It isn't their parents, it isn't those well-wishers that think that they know what is best for the child, but it is the child itself that learns to mature into an adult that understands who they are, that knows how to operate in the world as themselves, and that knows that there is no bigger authority in the world than themselves. There is no government that should be making a decision for them. There's no parent, there's no family, there's no educational institute, there's no one else, there's no God that can make a better decision for them than they can do for themselves. So essentially, this is a time for optimal physical development and learning to operate as yourself in the world, because your decision making is backed by your cognition. This is the vast childhood to adolescence process that we're looking at when it comes to a Uranian being. You can see that this is so different from the conditioning that we receive from the homogenized world that is still living in a Saturnian process that feeds into you that at 30 you should have your life figured out, that at 30 you should have a relationship figured out, you should have your career figured out, you should figure out what it is that you're going to do with your life, where you're going to be, who you're going to be, and so much more. However, what we come to see here is that at this point, the first 30 years of our life, we're actually only here to physically develop in a healthy way and to learn about our inherent nature. This is not a time to decide who you're going to be. This is a time to decide who is in charge. And it's you. It's your own inner authority that is backed by your unique, healthy, optimally functioning body. Around the age of 30, Saturn makes its return or completes a circle around the Rave mandala and finds itself back in the position of your imprinting Saturn. This entire cycle is called a Saturn return. And the cross that we get imprinted with when Saturn returns to its original position, we get an opportunity to have the program bring us something entirely different that can help us grow into our ultimate purpose, into our incarnation cross. Saturn return is the time when we begin to figure out, where am I when I am myself? And what do I see? In essence, what Saturn enables us to do is to establish ourselves physically at the correct place or quality of place in the world, and as a result of that, into our correct perspective that will help us develop our unique personality contribution in the world. So post-Saturn return is a time when we get thrown into our life story, or we get thrown into our trajectory, or we get thrown into the environment that is correct for us, so that we can learn what is correct for us to see when we are in that environment as ourselves. This is where the process of becoming an adult, or rather the process of moving towards adulthood, begins. Oftentimes, people experience this period in their life as a huge shock, especially as not self, because Saturn will punish us for not learning to be true to ourselves. This is a time when people get shocked into a realization of who they are, and therefore a time when a lot of things fall apart. You might find yourself in the unknown with yourself, and therefore with others and in the world at large. This is a time of big change, not self or not. This is a time when the structure of your adult life starts to show up through the program. Now, the way that you would work with a Saturn return chart or any of the long-term cycle charts like Uranus opposition or Chiron return is very different than how you would work with a solar return chart. The focus of these larger cycles is on the development of your purpose. It isn't really about looking at the connections that you have, the electromagnetic connections, the dominance and compromises, although you can look at it and it can bring something to light for you. But Ra makes it very clear that when it comes to these bigger life cycles, what's really important is to look at the cross, the profile, and the nodes of the cycle. So, for example, my Saturn return cross is a 5-1 left angle cross of revolution 1. Now, immediately when you look at this, you can tell that my process of developing my purpose is going to take a different stage, is going to have a different flavor, and I'm going to have to learn what it is to be a heretic investigator of revolution. This is a time in my life in which I'm going to have other forces come into my field as a result of the program that are going to help me realize what revolution can be a solution that can bring more stability to others. In this phase of my life, I have an opening up of a transpersonal process. And this doesn't mean that I become a 5-1 or that I become a transpersonal being. I'm always going to be a 2-4. I'm always going to be someone that has a personal destiny. I'm always going to do what I'm going to do for myself. But this is a phase in my life in which there are going to be forces that are going to help me understand what revolution is necessary for building a stronger foundation, what principles are necessary for organization, so that I can then eventually through my life process understand more about what it is to penetrate others. We can also look at the nodes that Saturn imprinted me with to understand what additional circumstances can I expect in my life during this phase of my life that will help me develop into my purpose. So, in simple words, it's a time for me to learn about penetration through learning about the process of a heretic investigator of revolution. Think of yourself as having a larger, vast imprint of purpose. For me, that would be penetration. And on top of that, you have a little layering, as you would do in Photoshop, an extra layer of revolution that Saturn is bringing, that is helping me understand where am I when I'm myself, where do I find myself in the world, and what do I begin to see in this world as myself. Saturn is bringing a sense of structure into my life in order to help me mature. And the Saturn process is actually going to continue all the way up to my second Saturn return, which is around the age of 60, where I get another new imprint that adds something different, right? So think of it as a Saturnian process that is continuously happening in the background, that is helping me call out the masses to a revolution that can strengthen them. I mean, I really wonder what I am suddenly doing here on YouTube, sharing all of this human design stuff, when pretty much all my life I have been highly focused on a small group of people that are a part of my network. I'm past my Saturn return. I am on my way through my trajectory, through my environment. I am learning to develop my perspective in the environment that I find myself in. And slowly I will find myself coming up to the point of my Uranus opposition, which is somewhere around the age of 40. This is the midway point for a human being, for a Uranian Homo sapien in transitus. Approximately, we're designed to live 84 years plus if we live correctly as ourselves. And this midpoint is the point when there is a shift that happens between us being, for the first 40 years of our lives, us being someone that are taking in the prana of life, that are taking in experience much more. And then post the Uranus opposition point, we are outputting prana a lot more. We are outputting life force energy a lot more. So actually what we realize is that up until the age of 40, we are just maturing as adults and learning a heck of a lot from our life experiences and taking in life really deeply, as opposed to a process that happens after the midpoint of our life, after Uranus opposition, during which we really begin to express our design out in the world. Uranus opposition is also the time in our life where we move from our south node to our north node. This is a time when we leave behind the lives that we've known and begin to really mature in our perspective and find ourselves in a whole new place where we can then begin to take our space as outer authority, as people that have something valuable and unique to share with others. Your Uranus opposition cross and nodes are the themes that you must learn about to go even deeper into your purpose, into your original incarnation cross. My Uranus opposition cross is a 2-4 right angle cross of contagion 3. And you can see during this phase of my life, I get to come back to my original role, my original profile, but get to be a hermit opportunist of contagion. And this process, this contagion process, is going to continue all the way till my death and going to aid me and help me in being a hermit opportunist of penetration. Now, around the age of 50 is when we experience a Chiron return. This is a time in our life where we have an opportunity to finally flower into who we are meant to be and to express our purpose through our personality sun. This phase of our life is about sharing what is happening, sharing what we truly see. It is about giving outer authority to those that are here to hear about our unique truths, that are here to benefit from our purpose. My Chiron return cross is a 5-1 left angle cross of defiance 4. And this is a time in my life where I again have an opening up in my process of having the right allies come into my life. This is a time in my life where I get to learn about calling out others for their creative self-expression, for their creative medium of defiance. And this transpersonal defiance process that I'm going to be learning about is also going to continue all the way till the end of my life and is going to help me become a better hermit opportunist of penetration through mind. You see now how the expression of our purpose, the life of a Uranian being, is a long developmental process, and the consciousness program is helping us develop our character and purpose along the way in order for us to really learn about who we are, where we belong, what do we see when we're at the right place, and how do I actually share that with others in a way that I can really have a unique impact on the world, in a way that I can make a contribution to the larger consciousness program. This is an entirely different cycle than what humans have experienced before, which involved them maturing at the age of 30. A Uranian being actually doesn't really fully get to flower in that essence all the way up to the age 50. It is only after our Chiron return that we are able to, if we operate correctly as ourselves, that we are able to express our unique outer authority, our unique self-reflection, our unique awareness out into the world. For anyone that's been stressing about how inadequate they feel, how late they are to their life, how they wish that this had happened by now or that had happened by now, I hope looking at this process brings a sense of relief to you, because you being yourself, you expressing your purpose, you flowering as the unique being that you are meant to be, is a really long and hard process through which you're going to experience many, many different flavors, many different environments, many different people, many different experiences, which will help you grow into the person that you are here to be. Just a quick mention to the second Saturn return. The second Saturn return is actually more of a marker for a Uranian being that hasn't actually lived out their Uranian process. In other words, for the not self. This is usually when things go really wrong for someone that hasn't been living as themselves in the world. This is around the age of 60. This isn't really of high significance for Uranian beings that live as themselves in the world. So that actually brings us to the end of this video, which was fairly long, but I hope that this brings you a lot of perspective of what it means to be yourself in this world and the developmental stages that you are consistently moving through, and that ultimately you expressing your purpose in the world relies on you continuously being yourself and interacting with the world as yourself. None of this information is helpful or valuable if you're not living like yourself and interacting with the world as yourself. So love yourself, accept the stage of life that you're in, and begin to really take it in and learn from it, because we are in the school of consciousness. Life is the school of consciousness. Whether you go to school or not, whether you go to college or not, university or not, whether you do your PhD or not, does not matter. Every single one of us is being schooled in life every second that we are here on this planet, and I suggest that you make the most of it.